having a space that had to be constantly converted was just like not going to be ideal.
We have this drawer. I don't think I've seen one like it.
I would say the defining thing in our van is the espresso machine.
We chose to switch to this because I think it's the perfect van life bike.
Hi, I'm Bryce.
I'm Bekah, and we have a 2019 Sprinter. Welcome to our van. All right, so we actually built our van in 3 different stages. We did a wireframe build where we essentially just had really crappy materials built out to give us a sense of layout. There was things that we learned, like doing dishes in a van sucks. Doing dishes was inevitable. So one thing we did that I haven't actually seen in any other vans is a dual sink. This also helps us conserve water because we can have soapy in one, clean in the other, and it's honestly made that whole process a lot easier. And I found once we also switched to the double sink, it made it so that we were actually cooking a lot more. Other things that we have in the van is induction. So we are actually fully electric. It wasn't the plan going into it. We just decided that we wanted less things to worry about. So we didn't want to have to worry about filling up propane and then all the different utilities. So what we did was went fully electric. Everything within the galley is actually on sliders. So everything from, you know, the front drawers all the way to where we keep our pots. All of our latches easily open and close. They have the struts, and then also it locks. So a lot easier. But I would say the defining thing in our van, which I also haven't seen in any other van, is the espresso machine. This is like the bougiest thing we've ever really done for this, but we basically love coffee. We had moved to Seattle, got really into the craft coffee scene there. And so one thing is we love to come to events like this and make coffee for our friends and then just for folks that we meet. The electrical system that Bryce can probably talk better about is basically built solely off of how to run this guy. So it's very intense, but one of our favorite features in the van. For our fridge, we have a isotherm 65 drawer. We love the drawers, so we're not like getting on our hands and knees and like rummaging through to see what's in the back. So we also have that placed at the end of our galley, so we can actually access it from inside, from outside. So if you want to grab beers as we're, you know, hanging out with friends, or even from the passenger seat. So if you want to like reach back and get like sandwich supplies, it's super easy to do that. So for us, a lot of our time is spent either like traveling for work or just like traveling in the van. And so that also means that we're leaving our van like in airport parking lots or like hotel parking lots all the time. So security was like a massive thing for us. So we actually have a bunch of cameras on the outside, then like a couple on the inside, just to like keep track of what's happening when we're gone. So we use Simply Safe, and we usually travel with our dogs, and so even being able to check to make sure that they're doing totally fine in the van is also been a great benefit for having them. I think one thing that was really important to us when building the van was I'm incredibly lazy, so having a space that had to be constantly converted was just like not going to be ideal. So for that, we definitely made sure to have a fixed bed, also giving us more garage space since we have a lot of random hobbies. But then also we wanted to have space, since I'm cooking a lot, to actually host friends in the van and have dinner parties, etc. So for this, I know a lot of folks have their seats kind of more towards the bed. We actually installed a folding seat from Freeman, I believe it is, seating, which, you know, encompasses 2 belted seats. The 2 front seats also swivel around, and so we can have like a nice 4-person. Or the other day when it was windy, we had like a 7-person like card game in here. So it's definitely been an awesome space to entertain, and it's really hilarious how much people you can have in a small van. We have our Lagoon, which is, I feel like, standard in every single van, swivel mount. So this is also where my husband and I work on the road. We both work full time, and so during the day, you know, we'll be sitting across from each other working, or if there's meetings, one person will be in back, one person will be up here in the front. Since we do a lot of driving, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be really fast just to, you know, put up a curtain. And so we installed this little curtain that goes into 80/20 just slider on the side. It has been really good, and just to, you know, if we need a change or a trailhead or whatever else, just to like pull that across instead of having to put all the window shades up. But we do have the window shades to help with heat. We're usually in the Pacific Northwest, which is cold, and so it also, you know, helps just keep the inside of the van warm. And we also have ones that go for our 2 fans as well. We also have a heated floor, which we're definitely not using in Baja. But the heated floor was something that we other friends were building a van and they were a bit further ahead of us, and they kept on saying that their dogs hated sleeping on the floor because it was freezing cold. And so we decided to add heated floors, and it's been absolutely fantastic. It's not that they're like super hot, but it makes it so when you get out of bed, you're not essentially like putting your feet on freezing steel floors. Yeah, and I can show you how easy it was to convert, because again, that was a huge thing for us, since a lot of folks, when they were saying like, oh, this converts well, they like speed it up, but this actually can take like up to 5 seconds. So this just comes up, over, and then we're all set. Again, living on the road, storage is big, especially because we're working and trying to have fun in the van. So one thing is that I wanted everything to have a home, and for the home to do all the purposes. So for instance, for laptops, I wanted to make sure that wherever we had them was, one, going to keep them safe, and so that this is a very just thrown together padded slot area, but then they also can get charged in place. So the same thing with like cameras and all of that. And then we also have a microwave, which was an addition at like a Home Depot parking lot where we like threw it in when we're on the road. So it's been really great just to make sure that we're, you know, getting to all our leftovers. And then just a lot of other storage that I think has transitioned as we've also been in the van longer. So for us, we've been living in Seattle for a while, and we just found that we were always going outside on the weekends. So we wanted to escape the city, so we'd, you know, go out for activities, for mountain biking, for rock climbing, but it was like really annoying to like set up a camp, figure out like what you're gonna do for food and all of that. So basically those like those chores almost of like going out and doing our activities took up the brunt of the time, the brunt of all the preparation time, even before a trip. So the kind of the idea of like a van started really coming to the forefront of our minds, because it was something that could always be packed, that we could, you know, throw some food into and then get to the trail, get to, you know, the beach in this instance. We ended up getting the van in 2019, and right before COVID hit. Then once COVID hit, we made a lot of different decisions with the van, because it became less of a what we're going to use on the weekends to something that we wanted to use more full time.
Actually, now that you mention it, I remember the exact moment when it started to feel like this should really be a thing we do. It was at Cape Disappointment in Washington, and we had this huge tent and a friend with us, and it just took like forever to set up. It was super windy, and we were just thinking, man, like it would be so nice to have solid walls. And it was also, it happens to be like the most bears per capita in Washington or something. There's like bears everywhere. So we're like, it's windy, there's a beautiful beach. Cape Disappointment is not disappointing, but you know, it would be nice to have like a vehicle in between us.
So we have a shower, which I know a lot of folks say that's not unnecessary, but it's really great after, you know, being in the ocean or mountain biking, being super muddy. So this is, I think, 24 by 36 shower pan. The metal tile is not like for waterproofing. The waterproofing membrane is on the other side. And then I have some built-in storage on one wall and then the water on the other. So this is also on a quick magnet, so it's really easy to, you know, slap on. Water conservation's big, so we not only have like the handle to control water, but then also the little gadgety guy on the side to turn it off and on. We also use this as like a drying area, so we do have a clothesline that goes all the way across. Sliding door, self-cleans, which has been fantastic, and a Laveo dry flush toilet. We're using up so much space in other areas, so we can't really have a fixed toilet. This makes it really easy to just pull it out when we need to, you know, shower, anything else, and then put it back when we're done. So we have a queen size bed back here. Bryce is like 6 foot plus. And so we also added to include flare spaces on either side, just so we can actually stretch out. We also equipped them with the Arctic Turn overland windows. And so that's been really good just to help with like airflow. We can just like crack open one of the 3 windows that we have back here and then put one of the fans on to just take the air out. And so we have a nice, really nice breeze coming through. This is where all of our clothing storage is. In addition to this area, it's clothing storage, but then also our command center. So we have everything from water fill gauges, our gray water tank gauges, and we can actually empty anything from inside inside the van or outside. This is where we turn on our inverter. It has info on the alternator, the heated floor, our Rixon heating system. In a van, you don't really have a side table, so we installed just really simple cup holders that kind of fold out on the sides, as well as like his and her lamp. So if we're, you know, turning off the lights in the main area, coming to the back, we can, you know, just have some light along our way. Also, one thing is that this area of the van is actually somewhat separate from our main light system. So I am definitely like a night owl, late riser. And so if Bryce is getting up in the morning, he can actually just turn off these lights and have the lights in the main area open. So they just very easily turn off and turn on. So it's not like we have to, you know, get blinded in the morning. And then on our side door and back door, we have a bug wall net. So essentially it can make sure to keep like all the bugs, since we're in nature all the time, out of the van. So for the side door, it just has a magnetic opening. So once you go through, it just self-closes itself. And then on the back here, it's more of a zipper. So if we did want to get the sights without the bug wall in the way, we can just roll it up and have that be fully open.
This is our garage. As you can see, it's a pretty big space. We actually usually have mountain bikes on this side, but one of the reasons we built the garage like we did is because it's modular. We can kind of move things around a little bit. So first, the electrical. We have 800 amp hours of lithium batteries on this side. We have an access panel and a fuse box / breaker box. We have a 3000 watt inverter from Victron in here. And we also have a solar controller that's MPPT. It comes in from the roof. We've got about 320 watts. It's not really that much for a van this size, but to deal with that, we have an auxiliary alternator that can pump in up to 200 amps. Just above our batteries, we have a little bit of storage space. We stick our climbing gear here, and we have a little bit of flex space where we put the ottomans for our big Agnes chairs, which is really nice. We also have a built-in compressor, which is really handy if you have to air down. You can just air right back up and it's all built in. Something that's unique to our compressor that a lot of people don't have is we have an intake as well, so we can deflate faster. So going to this side of the van, we have our water. We have a 40-gallon water tank. We have our intake, and then we have a shower here. And it's got a little quick connect. It's got hot and cold, so when it's a nice day outside, we can take showers outside. We have a little booth that we set out. And then we have all of our hoses on L-track. So this is our shower hose. This is our fill hose. This is our air compressor hose. Going into the heater, we have endless hot water. We have a heated floor, and we have air heat. That's all driven by one system. It's an S-Bar S4 that's modified by Rixon in Oregon. And the system is just a coolant pump basically. And the coolant gets hot and runs through a bunch of different heat exchangers that can basically have endless amounts of attachments. Going into the cargo storage, this is the bike rack side. We have 60-inch slides. These are all made out of 80/20 aluminum with plywood underneath. This is L-track. We tapped and ran it along the whole length. That's really useful because it looks really clean right now, but believe it or not, we actually put bags and everything on here, and we're just able to bungee it down. It stays in place. It's not moving around. We threw a bunch of firewood back here. And because of this L-track system, we can pretty much hold anything down, and it's fantastic. So right now we have a little bit of extra food and coffee because we were doing coffee for this event, but normally you'll see more activity-based equipment here. On this side, it's a little bit different. You'll notice that we have these two Yeti boxes, and we have a fixed space in the back. We had the fixed space in the back so that we can get our dog food out when we have our dogs with us, which we almost always do. So the same size length, they're both locking slides. And again, we've got the L-track on both sides. Something that we realized early on in the van is that when you're stacking boxes, it can kind of kill your usable space. And we're always trying to figure out like, how do we make it so we can get to the bottom things and the top things without taking everything out of the van, putting it out. So we came up with this solution. Our bed, actually our entire van is made out of 80/20. So we were able to just attach to that. We have this drawer, which I don't think I've seen one like it. We have a first aid kit, just a kind of an extra pouch to hold whatever we want. And then we just honestly load this up with whatever. And because it's got this elastic net, we can throw all kinds of things in here. We just got our sunscreen right now. And we always keep our toolkit back here. And at night, these are actually lights, so you can see inside this rack and get to whatever you need to get to. So one thing we didn't expect to love so much is this Milwaukee pack out kit here. Having it on the back of the door is great because we're always getting into these tools. Anyone who's built their own van knows that like you're always tinkering with little things, and just to be able to like reach in, grab them, set them down. It's so quick. I'll show you. We can kind of set it on a rack. It just pops open. You can grab your tools and just kind of shove them back in there, and then they're back on the door. And it's much easier than the system we had before, which was a bag that hung from that same door. I think to us it came down to so much of like, what will you regret more? Something that you never gave a chance, or something that you chose to do safely? And I think like this is such a wild experience. We've completely changed the way we think about time. A year ago feels like 10 years of life. Like it's so dense. We're getting so much community, we're getting so much travel. We've been across the country like literally twice. We've driven all the way down the Baja Peninsula, Baja California. It has its tough moments, absolutely, it does. And there's gonna be times when you need to get a hotel, which you should allow yourself to do. Yeah,
that's actually one tip that I've heard from a lot of people. It's like, budget out, like if you need, you know, the escape hatch of a hotel, you know, a couple times during your time, just do it. I would say the other thing is that everyone's experience is their own. Everyone's van is their own. What works for one person won't work for another. Some people will think having a toilet is ridiculous, and some people will find it like an absolute necessity. So, you know, don't feel discouraged if what you want isn't necessarily out there, but there's a lot of fun in exploring what works for you, because a van really becomes a reflection of people's priorities and their goals.
So we originally had a bigger motorcycle on the back of the van. We chose to switch to this because I think it's the perfect van life bike. Truly, I do. It's a 125. It only goes 35, 40 miles an hour with the two of us, but it's only 270 pounds. It can be modified to be a two-seater, which we've done. So I added rear pegs back here, a rear seat, and because it's our emergency bike, in case we run out of gas, I also added a spare Rotopax fuel pack here. Little rack here, just a guard, kind of for fun. The last thing we really need to do is to change out the tires, and then I think this thing is perfect. We've used it to get firewood, we've used it to run quick groceries. Bekah sits on the back, I usually drive, and it's been great. I think that's all there is to say about it. So a little bit about the top of the van. I already talked about the solar. One thing that is cool about the company we used is they lowered is the single unit, so you can't steal the solar panels. Kind of a nice thing to think about. This is a Rome-built rack. We've attached a ton of stuff to it. The thing that we've added most recently is these Rome Adventure Co boxes. And I think what's kind of cool about them is they're opening up this way, and you can actually get a whole mule rack set that just sits in here. What's great about them is they're super waterproof, super rugged, and eventually we're gonna add solar to the top of them, I think. But they're also just a fantastic bench system. So like the other night, a lot of us are sitting up here, and you can just kind of like chill and take in the environment. We've enjoyed a lot of sunsets up here, and just having the extra storage is unmatched. We have these 3 boxes. They're 105 liters each. We have our max tracks, and then we have a bag. And the bag is a really cheap solution for goods that we don't care about very much. Anything that is affordable and easy to replace, we put in there. So obviously there's no way to stop people from stealing it. So, but you know, nobody's ever come on our roof or tried to come on our roof. So I think that having it up here is also a nice little deterrent. So a couple other things that have been game changers for the van. We have a WeBoost antenna, and it works pretty well, but I think Starlink is what's really like redefined the way we van life. Now we can go to a trailhead, we can set up our Starlink, and we can sit there for the whole day and then hike at the end of it. Before, we kind of had to go into the city, and hopefully that 3 bars was enough to do video calls. Now we just feel so empowered to go anywhere we can with the van, and the van can go pretty much anywhere we've wanted to go. Huge game changer. I can't even define how much it's changed the way we adventure. This is our front bumper and winch system. This has also been amazing. So it's a worn winch. We have a tow hook that's removable, and we have 2 fixed tow hooks. We also installed these Baja LP6s, and they are great. The amber light cuts through dust and fog very differently than white light. The winch has actually just, again, kind of like Starlink, given us the ability to go places we wouldn't otherwise. We've also used it to recover quite a few friends' vans at this point. And it's a 10,000 pound winch, so we're able to pull out most people. You know, we're not pulling the whole weight of the van, just the horizontal weight. Great system. CA Tune makes the bumper. It's called the Hammerhead. Owl Vans installed it, and the rear ladder.
You can have the van that you want. So figure out what makes you comfortable. Sometimes that could be like 12 blankets, or that could be something where, you know, heated floors and an espresso machine. So figure out what makes that space safe, secure, and welcoming and homey, because it's what you're gonna be in all the time. Thanks for coming on our van tour. Follow us on Instagram at Generally Outdoorsy, and we will see you on the road.